What's up guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today I'm going to be talking about JavaScript HTML methods. And so we're going to be creating different HTML elements, and with our main.js file or whatever your JavaScript file is, we're going to be selecting our HTML elements and changing different things in it and adding different stuff. So let's get started. And so we're going to start by creating an H1, and we're going to add an ID to it, and you'll see why later. So just add an ID and you can set it to title or something different. And I'm gonna just write something random, so just lorem. And this is gonna be it for now. But now we're gonna go to our JS file, and we're gonna be selecting our h1 or our element here. And so first we're gonna create an object or a variable, and the name is gonna be title element, or you can just set it to title el, and that's short for element. And so now that's gonna be equal to document. And now our document is going to be our HTML file. And you can see right here that it says doc type, and that just means document type. And so basically this whole HTML file is going to be our document. And now we're going to select our document dot get element by ID. And now we're going to add brackets and a semicolon. So what we're doing is we're getting our document. We're selecting an element by its ID. And so here, between our brackets, we actually have to type in something, and that's going to be the ID of the element that we want to select. So it's going to be title. And so now this is going to be it, or almost it, because we actually have to log it to see what we get out. So title. And now if we go here, you can see that we get our h1, or we just get our element tag. And so to print out the text, what we could do is we could add a period in the console.log, or period here. I'll show you later. So just go here after our element name. You add a period, and you can add the content, text content. There we go. So what we're doing is we're getting our elements, and then the text content. It's basically the content or the text of our element. And the different way to do it is by just doing this. So remove this, and we can add it here. We can add at the end here dot text content, and as you can see, we still get the same result. And so there's different methods we can use, which I'll be going over later, but this is going to be the most basic one out of all of them. And so a cool thing we can do is we can change the text inside of our JS file. So let's actually do that. Now what we're going to do is after selecting our element, so after creating our object, we're going to select it. So title element. Now we're going to add a period, and then not that. So inner text. And now we're going to set that equal to something else. So right now it's set to whatever this is, right? And then we can set this to, let's set this to changed by, or changed with JS. So we can do text changed with JS. And now we can just comment this out, go here, and you can see that we have changed our text with our JavaScript. And if we go back here, you can see that it's still set to whatever it was before. And this is a pretty cool thing you can do. And this doesn't only work with H1. So let's say that I create a paragraph under. We can just set the ID to paragraph. And so let's just set this to whatever, right? I'll just copy this. We can create another object. So let's do text element el, and I'll just change this to text to make it a bit simpler. So text element, that's going to be equal to document.get element by ID. And so we're going to put the text here. We can do the same thing under here. So text element dot inner text, and we can just change it to whatever you want like this. So let's change it to text or whatever you want, doesn't really matter. And if we go back, you can see that we have successfully changed it. And I'm going to show you another pretty cool keyword, and that's going to be the inner HTML. So for this one, we're just going to make a link, and we can just change it to hashtag, and this is going to be it. So actually, let's add in an ID so we can select it, and that's going to be equal to, we can just set it to title. It doesn't really matter. And let's go back to our main.js, and let's create an element. So let title element, and that's going to be equal to document dot get element by ID, and that's going to be equal to title. And what we're going to do now is we're going to select our title element, add a period, and last keyword we went over was the inner text, but now we're going to go over the inner HTML. And if we actually print that, let's do that before we change it. So then you can see that we get nothing, and that's because we don't have anything inside of our anchors. So what we could do is we can actually go back here and we can select it again. So title element dot inner HTML, and we can set this to an element. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna write HTML code here. So let's add an h1 inside of our anchor tag, and we can just set this to something like click me. And then when we go back, you can see that we have added an h1 that says click me from our JavaScript file. And when you go back to our index.html file, you can see that we only created our anchor tag, and we haven't created an h1 tag or element. But when we go back here, you can see that we have an h1, and so we have created it with JavaScript, and you can see that it printed the inner HTML of our anchor tag. So now what we're going to do is we're going to be changing a few attributes. So let's add a class here. Actually, let's just set this back to our h1. So I'm going to copy this, change this to an h1, add the ID, do this. Now let's see if it's back. Nope. And that's because we have to remove all of this. So actually, let's just remove this. And let's see. There we go. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add a class. So let's add a class here. And we can set it to, set it to title2. And what we're going to do is we're going to be changing our class with our JavaScript file. And to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to select our title element, dot, and then we're just going to type in class list, and we can set it to something different. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this to equal, and then we can just do this, just gibberish. And if we go back here, you can see that we changed it to our gibberish here, or whatever this is, and we can actually make a pretty good use of it. So what we could do is go to our styles.css, and we can change this to, well, we can do something like this. So if it's title, right, we can set the color of our h1 to, I don't know, aqua, right? But then if it's, let's say, you can just change this to title2, then the color would change to, let's just do brown, right? So you can see that nothing happened here, and that's because we have to set this to title2. If you go back, you can see that it changed. And so this is pretty useful when you know different event listeners, which I'll be making a video on later. And if we actually copy this, right, and we paste it in our console here, you can see that it's the color's gonna be aqua now. But if we go to our console and paste it here, you can see that it changed to our brown, and that's because I'm gonna go over another method, and it's gonna be my favorite one because you have a lot of freedom with it. So you'll see what that means in a second. So let's start the same way, and we can do let title el, so title element, and that's going to be equal to document. Instead of typing get and selecting any of these, we're going to type in is query, and you can see that we get query selector and query selector all, and I'll go over this one in a bit. So let's just select the first one. And so basically what this one allows you to do is select it however you want to. So you can select it by its class, by its ID, by its tag name, and so on. So let's actually just log this out. So title elements. And so I'm going to do anything because we haven't selected the element first. So let's select it by its class. So we can just add a period. And then we can set this to title. And basically, the way we select is by basically the same thing as CSS. So if we want to select it by its hash or by its title, we'd use a hashtag. Let's actually see if it works first. And you can see that it works perfectly fine. And we can also, add, or change the inner HTML, or go here, we can change or we can print out the content, text, or text content, and so on. But yeah, if we change this to this right here, then it's going to be selecting it by its ID. And if we go back, you can see that it still works and, perfectly fine. And now we can also select it by its tag. So it's going to be the H1 and still works, of course. And we can actually just add a period, and then we can do the text content. You can see that it works perfectly fine. And this one it's a very nice way to select elements and try to remember this. So query selector, and now the query selector all, I'm going to go over it in a second. But now what happens when we have multiple elements? So we can do something like this, change this a bit. So we can do norm for. And so now what it's going to do is it's going to be selecting the first element. So it's going to select our first H1, as you can see here, in our HTML file or our document. And so if you want to select all of the H1s, what you would do is change it from query selector to query selector all. And what it would do now is it would select, I wrote something wrong, but let's see. So it doesn't work, and that's because we have to delete this. And now you can see that it's printing out 2, so it says node list 2, and that means that it's selecting 2 HTML elements, and you can see that this is going to be our first one, and this is going to be our second one. And so this also works with classes. So if we had multiple elements with the same class or ID, then you can see that it would still give me the same answer. And so this is basically the query selector method. But yeah, so it's gonna be for this video. Now, if you guys have any questions, then leave a comment down below. I'll do my best to answer it. Like this video if you like this, help the channel for more content like this, and see you in the next video.